All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is Wednesday, April 12th, full board meeting of the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. First, let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Ettinger, would you please take the roll call?
Mark Borowski.
Here.
Corey Montiel.
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Here.
Markel Moore.
Here.
Joseph Como.
Here.
Patrick McCaffrey.
Here.
Anthony Zenobia.
Here.
Karen Robertson.
Here.
Kelly Piazza.
Here. Thank you. And Sue, can you please verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. We do not have a Bright Lights presentation tonight, but we'll begin the meeting tonight with recognitions. And tonight, Mrs. Thede is going to introduce our new Deputy Superintendent.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As you recall, last month you approved Jen Gennerman as the next Deputy Superintendent of Student Services, so I wanted to take a moment to formally introduce Mrs. Gennerman to the board. She is data-driven, organized, a strong communicator, and has a background in leadership and special education. You may have seen her present at TNL since she is our current instructional data specialist. For those of you who may not have seen her present, I wanted to be sure to put a name with a face and welcome her into her new position, officially beginning July 1. So, welcome, Jen.
Thank you. It's just been an honor to be selected for this position, and I'm really looking forward to every next step we take together. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen. All right, and I have the privilege tonight of a couple of additional recognitions, and so I would like to start by recognizing our board members who are outgoing, who will be leaving us after this term. First is Mr. Montijo. He's been on the board since 2019. I think a lot of people don't know that when Mr. Montijo was appointed to the board in 2019, I also sought an opportunity to be on the board, so I'll claim that he beat me in my first election. But it was an excellent choice, and he's been with us now for 4 years. He's served on the Safety and Security Committee, the Policy Committee, Finance and Facilities, Student Services, HR and Compensation. He was the CISA 1 representative and the WEFT liaison, worked just in various different capacities across the district. Now you're a parent in the district, and I'm very proud of the work that we do here, and so we're going to miss you, but appreciate all of your service.
Thank you.
All right, next, I'd like to recognize Karen Robertson. A little bit of an adjustment for us this year. Karen's been on the board since 2011. She's served multiple terms. She has served on a number of committees in many different capacities: curriculum and instruction, policy, HR and compensation, finance and facilities, teaching and learning, the legislative committee, the government relations committee, safety and security, CISA 1 representative, and was our WASB delegate. So many terms, many years of service and commitment to the district. Also proud parent of students in the district, and we appreciate all of your service and we'll miss you greatly. All right, and then last but certainly not least, Mr. Como. Joe Como has been on the board since 2002. He held the following positions: President, Vice President, and Treasurer of the Board, currently serving as our Treasurer. Served on pretty much every committee and in every capacity: Finance and Facilities, Policy, Curriculum and Instruction, HR, Technology, Teaching and Learning, Human Resources and Compensation, Consensus Bargaining, Negotiations, OPEB Representative, and Technology Oversight, and has taught me a lot in the last couple of years, has been very gracious with me over the last couple of years. And I think that this board will be really different without you on it. We'll very much miss your service and your commitment, and I think just your grace and patience with all of us as well. So thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
If any of you would like to say anything, you're more than welcome.
Well, I have really appreciated the trust that the community has placed in me over the last 21 years. When I was first encouraged to run by people like Bill Bumgart and Bill Domina, Bonnie Schleiss, some of you may know Bonnie, and maybe 7 or 8 other people all kind of hit me all at once. And I'm like, why would I run for the school board? And I decided to, and I had a lot of support from those people. And I've had a lot of support from many people throughout the years. And that's really who I'd like to thank, because those people helped guide me and provided the support that I've needed. My wife, Terry Como, of 34 years, you guys know what the commitment level is for your spouses, as we have many meetings and events, and she holds the household together and still works and does a whole bunch of stuff. So I love Terry deeply, and I learned to serve from my mom, Esther Como. Some of you may know my mom. She worked for the school district for 30 years. She's about 4.5 feet tall, and she could hold back those kids in a high school hallway like nobody else. Her nickname is Yoda. So she's very wise, and I picked up on a lot of things from my mom. She always gave me advice, almost every meeting. So I really appreciate those two people quite a bit, but there's so many people, Todd Gray and Jim Siebert as superintendents, and Joe Cook, I could go on with so many administrators and teachers. And the best thing about serving on the board is really seeing the kids in action. I love when the kids come here to present. I still love it just as much as day one. And I think I like the elementary kids maybe a teeny little bit better than the high school kids, because they're just so out there with being so open and honest. You ask them a question, they'll either say nothing because they're really afraid, or they'll just blurt out, whatever comes top of mind, and it may or may not even answer the question, but it's great that they're presenting to us. So I will miss the people quite a bit. And I thank you for your trust and the privilege to serve you all these years.
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief, which is not my custom. But it has been, people always say it's an honor and a privilege. It's been a privilege of mine to be able to serve on this board. I've said this numerous times. Public service is an honor. It is a privilege. We all serve in our own way. Those of you sitting in this room, you're all serving. It's the heart of our democracy. I'm going to miss it. Every school should be built on the highest hill in every town. It should be a shining example of what we hope to produce We live under this kind of a legal fallacy or fiction of kids are kids, and they magically when they turn 18, they become adults. Anybody who's been involved knows it's not flipping a switch. So someday, maybe we'll accomplish that. And how do we do that? Well, by showing up in this room, by running for board positions, and understanding this. And I didn't anticipate speaking, but I'm trying to summarize it all. What I've learned, and the most important thing I've heard over the last 3 years, it was not from a school board related issue. It was a retired female CIA officer who I think served for 40 years overseas. And she was asked, what's the number one thing she's learned over her career? And she paused, and usually that's a really good sign. And she said, no one thinks they're the bad guy. Everybody, and it just rung home with me. And that's what I've seen throughout this process and the people I've gotten to know, and I respect and honor all of you. No one thinks they're the bad guy. Everybody's coming to this room thinking they're adding something good to the process. I doubt people have bad motives. That's something I try to keep in mind over the years, and sometimes it's hard. But I think if that lesson can be learned, and I take advantage of this opportunity to just repeat it, if I can leave it at that, I'm happy. So thank you. It's been a pleasure. You all work extremely hard. What Joe said about the family sacrifice, I echo it. I can't begin to talk about my family or I'll not make it through this. So I loved it. You guys do great work. Thank you all for being here. Whoever's just stay involved. It's been a pleasure. So thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
All right, so I didn't plan on saying anything, but I just go back to the story of the day I met Sue. So I was not in agreement with what was happening at my kids' school and in their education, and I got done with my morning devotion one day, and if you've heard the story, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again because last time I can tell it. So, and I sat down at my computer and I thought, who are these people that are behind the scenes from my kids' schools making these decisions? And I did a search, Waukesha school board members, and up came these 9 faces that I had never seen before. And I thought, these are the people that are making decisions for my kids that aren't even in my schools. So I clicked on the button. I thought, how did they get there? So I clicked on the button, how to become a school board member. And it said that you needed to have 100 to 200 signatures in the office no later than January 4th. And I thought, okay. And then I had a calendar and I looked down at my desk and it was January 4th and my heart starts beating. I was like, what is happening? Wait, what is happening? And I pushed myself onto my rolling chair and I just got down on my knees and I prayed and I said, Lord, I don't know what this is, but I feel like you're calling me to it, and so I'm just going to obey. So it said that I needed to go and get the signatures or go and get the papers from the Lindholm building, wherever that was, and that's what I did. And I got in the car and I walked into Sue's office. It was her first day. And another secretary was leaving. It was her last day and she was telling Sue what to do. And I said, hi, I'd like to run for the school board. Meanwhile, 2 incumbents were bringing in their papers to drop off the 200 signatures, 100, whatever. And I said, I'd like to get my papers, and Sue was like, this is the last day, do people do this? And she's like, yep, give her her papers. So I went around town, I went to the library, I went to food stores, shoe stores, anything, and I just told people, I am not in agreement with what's happening with my children. I want to run for the school board. Today is the last day. I need over 100 signatures, phone numbers, your address, and would you be the first to sign? And this guy at the library was like, sure. And he signed it and gave it to me. I'm like, that's not that hard. So I went on and I just went through the whole day. It was time to pick up kids, and I picked them up and I just went home and I just went 10, 20, 30, and there was over 100. And I screamed, and the kids were like, what, Mom? I'm like, I'll tell you later. And I ran and I gave Sue my papers, and she just couldn't believe it. But
And I said she just might win on spunk. And I was right.
Well, I was one of those board members turning in my papers, and I thought, This lady's crazy. Trying to do this today.
Well,
Didn't I say that too?
well,
Well, it turns out you're very ambitious
thank you.
and not crazy.
Thank you. Well, I was told that I was just a mom, and that what was I going to do with all of these professional people at this table? And I think that was just what I needed, because I knew that I was a mom and I didn't have all the qualifications that a lot of business people do, but as you moms know, moms care a lot. Not more than dads, but I will say a lot. And so the mama bear came out, and that was all I needed. So it just took something in my heart to make me realize I can either take my children out, or I can get in and try to make things better for all kids. And so I think that if we just keep putting kids first and do what we're called to do, that great things can happen. So if you're not happy with the way things are, just run to have a seat at the table and have a bigger part of this picture. So thank you for voting me in. Thank you for all the years. Thank you all. I'm going to miss you all, so thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you all. All right. Oh, I just lost my login. Okay. We do not have a student report this evening, so we'll move right into our citizen speakers. So we're at the portion of the meeting where there's an opportunity for citizens to speak. We normally reserve about a half hour for this. We have 25 speakers tonight, so we're going to ask everyone to limit their speaking time to 2 minutes per person. We will notify you when you have 30 seconds remaining in your time. We expect all speakers to honor our time limit, refrain from using any inappropriate language, and be respectful in their comments. Speakers who do not meet these expectations may be prohibited from speaking at future board or committee meetings. Speakers are here to address the board and not the audience. The school board does not endorse any comments made by members of the community here tonight. We would like to remind our community members of the impact of their words on others and that our children are watching. We commit to communicating with you in respectful and productive ways and ask that you do the same. We also expect that the audience will be respectful of the speaker and of the board and refrain from responding with verbal comments, cheering, applause, or other behavior that will detract from the meeting. Please note that no obstructions can be created between the board and the audience. Visual aids cannot be used, and the area behind the speaker and the podium will be kept clear during public comment. Also, in order to respect our speakers and meeting participants, please silence your cell phones. I will announce 3 people at a time, just so you kind of know who's coming up next, and just would ask that you're prepared if you're next in line, just so we can move through this as efficiently as possible. And I really do just want to reinforce that out of respect to each other, the applause, the comments, and when other people are speaking, the floor belongs to the speaker who's speaking, and I'd just like to respect that tonight. Our first speakers, we'll start with Sarah Schindler, followed by Diane Voigt, and then Jay McDivitt.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Schindler, and I am the parent of a first grader at Higher Elementary. My daughter is in Melissa Temple's first grade classroom. I'm just here to share my experience with Melissa and the influence she's had on my daughter. Every day this year, my daughter has come home overjoyed to share what she's learned that day, but these past 6 days have been very different. My daughter hasn't shared much about her day. She just says it's fine. The joy and enthusiasm has really been missing from her voice and from her words. Maestra Melissa's influence on my child has been absolutely enormous. Melissa Temple dressed as her great-grandma, Mrs. Wu, for the 100th day of school. She was featured on the posters at every entrance to Higher. She and her co-teacher, Maestra Angie. When I explained to Maestra Melissa that my daughter wouldn't read chapter books at home, even though she could, Melissa offered to stay after school one day each week, taking her own time to read books with my daughter and inspire her to read some more. And then that evening, she came home and read all night. When I messaged Maestra Melissa that a boy in her class was making fun of my daughter's Asian eyes by making slanty-eyed gestures at her during class, Melissa called me at 9 p.m. to get all of the details so that she could address it the next day. She sat with my daughter on the field trip bus, reassured her that it was okay and that she wasn't going to let her get picked on, and she was truly there for my child. Melissa's classroom is my child's second home. When I asked my daughter how the kids who don't speak English are doing in her absence,
30 seconds.
my daughter said we help them out because we're a family. This is entirely due to Melissa's influence on her class in creating a second family for her students. My daughter's growth and love of learning this year is because of Melissa Temple. My child and her classmates need Melissa Temple back in the classroom so that she can finish off this year from the journey she started in educating her students and teaching them to love themselves and to love each other and be proud of all they've learned. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Diane Voigt, followed by Jay McDivitt, and then Susie Nietzsche.
As you already heard, this is the last meeting for Joe Como, Karen Reinachek, Rob Robertson, and Corey Montijo. And I want to publicly thank them for their years of dedicated service and to wish each of them the best in the next chapters of their life. I want to especially thank Karen tonight because of her early advocacy for the Blessings in a Backpack program. I've sort of taken over a love of that particular program. And the Waukesha County program started in 2012 at Hatfield Elementary School, providing 25 kids with nutritional food items in their backpack for the weekend. The School District of Waukesha currently serves 2,422 students every weekend through Blessings in a Backpack. And I personally work with 313 at Hatfield alone. Thank you, Karen. Next, I want to thank all three of you for your service on the Finance and Facilities Committee. Recently, the community received the referendum update in their mailboxes, and it proudly reported the fiscal responsibility that we have shown over the years in the School District of Waukesha. One huge accomplishment is saving $2.2 million by paying off the interest on the referendum ahead of schedule. I would like to suggest that the district allow a living legacy to your service by allocating those $2.2 million into increased compensation for our staff. I would propose offering our special education aides $25 per hour for full-time positions with benefits. I would propose offering increased compensation for our substitute teachers, so our teachers and administrators will not have to cover for others during their limited prep times. One thing we can all agree upon is that Waukesha needs to recruit and retain quality staff so that all students can be successful. And those two proposals would help us to do just that in your legacy.
30 seconds.
I will truly miss working with the three of you when I return to the board. But I'm optimistic that together the Waukesha Board of Education will work to make our shared goal of recruiting and retaining quality staff a reality. Best wishes.
Thank you. Next is Jay McDivitt, followed by Susie Nietzsche, and then Tom Nietzsche.
Hi, my name is Jay McDivitt. My two children attend Waukesha Public Schools. Under this board's policy and the superintendent's policy, rainbows are too political because queer people are a distracting issue. Not an identity to be celebrated, but a political problem. And Dr. Piasek told the paper that her focus is on positive student outcomes, not politics. So let's talk about politics. We've been in the news twice in recent years. The first was when this board refused free food during a historic pandemic. We wanted to feed hungry kids because hungry kids can't learn. Some of you said no to feeding kids solely because you didn't want to appear too liberal. Not because it would produce positive student outcomes, but purely because of politics. So who's bringing politics into our schools? And now we have this current problem with a song about rainbows. Combined with your crusade against all things even remotely queer, this story has made us a global laughingstock. And for what? Well, telling kids that rainbows are dangerous and that being queer is controversial, will any of that produce positive student outcomes? No. Rather, creating safe places for our children to learn in their own skin will help them learn. And telling them that who they are is a distraction will cause anxiety and depression, which are proven to reduce educational performance.
30 seconds.
We want to celebrate diversity because kids learn better in their own skin. You want to ban rainbows because a radical national agenda says that celebrating diversity is too woke. Who's bringing politics into our schools? Our children are not pawns in a political game of chess. They are human beings who deserve a safe place to learn in their own skin. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Nietzsche, followed by Tom Nietzsche, and then Sarah Harrison.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I am a good parent and I support my child unconditionally. I want to be a partner with the schools and help my child become a successful adult. I thank you all for focusing on the education of our children. The distraction that has been present in the last few weeks has got to stop. There is absolutely zero reason for any admitted activist to be educating our children on anything other than math, English, science, etc., school subjects. The lies and smears done to our school board and superintendent are absolutely uncalled for, and they need to stop. On a second note, no child was ever denied food. They chose to take it back to the original food program that has been mentioned several times, so that children that needed food would get the food that they needed, versus throwing away thousands of meals a week. Please research that evidence. Thank you, Corey, for everything you've done for our schools and our children. Mr. Como, thank you. And Karen, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next is Tom Nietzsche, followed by Sarah Harrison, and then Samuel D'Amico.
Hello, everyone. I come to the board tonight to say that I'm a good person, I'm a good parent, and a believer of God and Jesus. I'm here tonight to support my daughter so that she receives a great education. I'm happy with the focus on academics and the direction this board is moving. And I appreciate all the service that you three have done. And thank you so much. I'm just going to keep it brief. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Harrison, followed by Samuel D'Amico, and then Renee Messerschmidt.
Thank you. Nearly 2 years ago, my youngest child addressed the Waukesha School Board regarding the removal of safe space signs. In this address, they said, "You are hurting me as a queer student. What are you going to do to fix it?" So now, 2 years later, I ask you, what are you going to do to work toward an inclusive and welcoming environment for all students? And I do mean all, regardless of gender, race, socioeconomic status, or any other factor. All means white, black, and brown. All means male, female, and non-binary. All means people who love the opposite gender, people who love the same gender, and people who love any combination of genders. The actions of this school board and administration have created a toxic environment in which students and teachers are fearful to speak up when they see something that is wrong. These actions run the gamut from petty, such as disallowing rainbow lanyards in the implementation of the updated staff dress policy, to frankly harmful, compelling staff members to out students to their parents if they use pronouns that are not in keeping with their assigned gender at birth. The school board is charged with preparing our bright young students for a world after their K-12 education. They will
30
encounter
seconds.
a diverse world, whether they go on to college or directly into a career. And I ask you to help them to embrace the beautiful world that they live in. You set the tone. You set the policies. You can make SDW a school district where all people are welcome, safe, and free to be exactly who they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Samuel D'Amico, followed by Renee Messerschmidt, and then Katie Randall.
Good evening. I haven't been here in a while, but it's nice to be back on a wonderful topic. Few speakers have mentioned politics in our school before, and just like to cover that as well. That we keep hearing bringing politics out of the classroom, bringing controversial topics. out of the classroom and going back to a level playing field of education where we can just focus on education. And all of you know that's not true. All of you know that when we are taking things out that is controversial in the classroom, bringing stuff back to the scope of education, you're bringing politics into the situation. That's what's been happening with the school board past 2-3 years, why a lot of us who are even in this room even got involved in the first place. Because we had school board members making the COVID-19 pandemic political. We had school board members making getting free lunch for every child political. We had school board members making diversity signage political. And now we have a district as a whole who has more or less chosen to remove themselves from a situation, therefore placing themselves in the situation of not allowing first graders to play a song about rainbows because that's too political. Well, when the district put out a statement that the district didn't necessarily ban the song from being used, your inaction was an action. Your inaction was telling
30
them
seconds.
that song cannot be used. This has been a controversial issue, not because we're making it one, but because the members on this board that got elected by the Republican Party of Wisconsin made it one. And as we've seen just today, love outnumbers hate, and as we will see, love will overcome hate. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Renee Messerschmidt, followed by Katie Randall, and then Erica Kochansky.
Good evening. I hate public speaking, but I realize my actions contradict that statement because I'm speaking in front of the board monthly. But my high school speech teacher, Christine Beck, told me that public speaking is a necessity to raise your voice, especially when those around you are being silenced. So here I am. It's incredibly disheartening learning a first grade teacher has been placed on leave for voicing her disapproval of a song being removed for a first grade concert. A song about acceptance in a conflicting world. To some, rainbows are a political hot topic. To others, a symbol of recognition. And to many, they're just there to teach children colors. My youngest attends a high special needs school where many students are neurodivergent. An infinity loop with the colors of the rainbow is the symbol for neurodiversity, showing acceptance and inclusion of all neurotypes. All children can benefit from learning diversity, and it doesn't mean that it's bad. It means it's unique, and that those unique differences make us all special. Now, my youngest isn't neurodivergent, but he benefits from being in a classroom with neurodivergent kids, growing into an empathetic and caring individual, something many adults lack. All three of my sons have benefited being around students and teachers who are different from them, from special needs to LGBTQ+, other races and religions. And a lot of this acceptance came from the aid of teachers. When I was in first grade, I had a reading disorder. My first grade teacher, Holly Gustafson, worked with me every day tirelessly, and she helped me. I can't imagine what it would be like if she had been removed. I would have spiraled. These kids, they're missing their teacher right now. And I know that there are people on this board and in this administration that can do something about it, that can put this teacher back with her students, because that's where she belongs. Please, do this for them.
Thank you. Next is Katie Randall, followed by Erica Kochansky, and then Jeanette Cooper.
Good evening. I, like Renee, am not very good at public speaking, so we'll give myself a little bit of grace. I'm here tonight to be a new face. A lot of people say it is an angry mob and it is a small group of people that are standing behind these students that need to be heard. And I'm a new face, but I feel the same way as everybody else that's been up here to say something. My main thing to say is that this board has talked a lot about academic achievement, but I do not know one single thing that you have done to increase my students, my children's academic achievement. What you have done is remove SEL. You have removed equity continuing education for our children, or for our teachers, excuse me. You've removed safe space signs. You've rejected the SSO program initially. You are trying to ban books. You've removed the Epic app for unknown reasons. You closed Whittier. You've passed a parent rights resolution. Not one single one of those things helps with academic achievement. You don't follow research-based teaching methods. You think that this board and that parents' rights are better at deciding how to teach children than those
30
that actually
seconds.
study that. I also wanted to say that I do stand behind Melissa Temple. Rainbows are just rainbows, but your policies, directives, and resolutions over the last few years have made rainbows not just rainbows. For me, it stands for LGBTQ, all skin colors, all socioeconomic statuses, all religions, all ethnicities, all abilities, all special needs, all disabilities. That's what we're meant to serve here.
Thank you. Erica Kochansky, followed by Jeanette Cooper, and then Laurel Peterson.
Good evening. I came here tonight with nothing prepared. Even standing right back there, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to say. I know I've been feeling very angry. And honestly, as I stood outside of this building, singing Rainbow Land, surrounded by a bunch of other lovely people singing the same song, I didn't feel so angry anymore. I felt like a part of something. I did not magically turn into someone from the LGBTQ community. I am still a cisgender woman. Because we all know that is why people believe that this song is controversial. So I have a second grader who goes to Bethesda. She's in the dual language program. Her name is Rosalie. She is an awesome kid. She loves her school. She loves her teacher. And some holidays, we head down to Chicago, and we spend the holidays with my cousin and her wife and their 2 daughters. And
30 seconds.
my daughter sees that mommy gets upset about some of the things that are going on in the school district, and she wants to know why I'm upset. And I tell her because there are people that are in charge of the school district that believe that these people who love us and take us in at the holidays and care for you, they believe that they are wrong. And they want to do away with them in the schools. They don't want them to be seen or heard. How do you explain that to a second grader?
Your time
How
has
do I
ended.
explain to her what is going on and that she can't see rainbows?
Kochansky. Thank you. Next is Laurel Peterson, followed by Mary Adele Ravoy, and then Kurt Burry. I'm sorry, I apologize. I turned one too many sheets over. Jeanette Cooper. Thank you. Sorry, Jeanette.
I heard that you all are going to be singing a song up here, so I came from Chicago just to listen because I love music. I couldn't learn that song even though it's catchy. I hope no one minds that I'm cross-dressing right now. Many people told me that I have the wrong belief about people because I believe that every human being is inherently good. I believe everybody acts from a place of good intention. And so some people really think that that's a messed up idea about the world. I actually believe that every single human being is good. And you don't need to prove it to me or anybody else. There's no button that's going to tell me that you're a good person. I just believe that because I was taught that in school before we had all of this. And I think that children should be taught to see the good in people and not to figure out what's wrong with them or what they disagree on, but what we as human beings share together. I'm getting this fancy paper called a PhD in education, and that just means I've gone to school many days. And I've learned how to jump through hoops. I don't really believe in the concept of hate, so that's my only real problem with the song situation. I don't think I'm capable of hating an entire human being. I don't think hate is a real concept. I think people don't have hate in their heart. What they have is hurt. And when we see children misbehaving, when we see adults behaving in a way that makes us uncomfortable, we should look for what is hurting them. So I might be uncomfortable with an idea. I might even hate that idea, but it is impossible for me to hate a person. So I'm not sure that anyone acts from a place of hate. I think it takes compassion and curiosity to wonder, how could somebody come to this belief in this action? So we have to assume those good intentions. We have to assume that every person, whether their classroom has a flag or their car has a sticker, that they're coming from a place of good intention.
Your time.
Thank you. Laurel Peterson, followed by Mary Adele Ravoy, and then Kurt Burry.
Hello. Although I am a school district parent, I am speaking tonight with my professional hat on. I am a marketing and communications manager by trade. And if I were working for the school district when the Rainbow Land controversy arose, the first thing I would have done would be to encourage my supervisors to schedule a visit at Higher and craft a message to the effect of the following. Dear Higher family, unfortunately, an issue has arisen which has put Higher Elementary under the microscope. I'm not here to go into specifics on the issue or its causes, but I want to let you know that no matter what has happened or will happen down the road, that the Higher Elementary School community has the full support of the School District of Waukesha. We know that Higher is a wonderful school with top-notch teachers and great students. Because of the publicity our school is getting, there are a few police officers that you will see here in the coming days. We have asked them to come out of an abundance of caution because the safety of our students and staff is our #1 priority. You may also notice that one of our teachers isn't here today. Although I can't say if or when she'll be back, please know that we will do whatever we can in her absence to make sure her classes are covered and her students receive the same quality education they have come to expect. If you have any individual questions or concerns about this situation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll do my best to address them. Go Higher Hawks!
30 seconds.
I wrote that statement not because I'm auditioning for a job with the district. I am definitely not. I wrote it because I have several friends who are students, parents, and staff at Higher, and in the 3 weeks since this has blown up, I'm told that none of them have received a similar communication from any of you. Higher deserves your respect, support, and encouragement, and I sincerely hope that you will right this wrong, regardless of what side of the issue you are on, and not leave students and staff hanging in the wind.
Thank you. Mary Adele, I'd just like to remind everyone to hold your applause, please. Mary Adele Ravoy, followed by Kurt Burry, and then Monica Whaley.
Hi, good evening. As she said, my name is Mary Adele Ravoy, and I'm a proud graduate of Waukesha South High School, class of 1989, which now you know how old I am. Go Black Shirts, right? I haven't spoken in front of the school board for a long time. I was actually a student at South the last time I did, and I wasn't talking about rainbows or singing or Miley Cyrus or Dolly Parton, but I was talking about policies, and I want to address that again tonight, specifically policy 2240, controversial issues in the classroom. And if you don't have it handy, I have copies if you want to refer to that. The policy was recently cited in letters in the media as a justification for prohibiting first graders to sing the Rainbow Land song at their spring concert. I was unfamiliar with the exact wording of this policy, but knew that something was passed by the school board that set strict guidelines on what can be shown within the classroom and in the school environment. In hearing about this latest restriction, I dove into the specifics of this policy. As it notes, it was first adopted in February 2017, then revised on August 10th, 2022. I respectfully request that it be revised again. I had many more notes to address those specific ideas that I have and the revisions that I'm putting forward. However, with the time limit, I will not be able to go through those specifically. I will be sending them to all of you, and they can go on public record, and if anyone in the audience would also like a copy, happy to share. But what I'm looking at is a policy that is related to decision making. And what guides those decisions and who makes those decisions?
30 seconds.
But do I But do you have to make those decisions immediately? It could be that all decisions regarding controversial issues could wait. Wait for public input and feedback so that you actually do get a sense, will it be controversial for our students, parents, teachers, staff, and the community at large? Does it have to be so quick that you get national headlines before you get parents' input? Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt Burry, followed by Monica Whaley, and then Christy Miller.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kurt Burry. I'm the father of 4 school-aged children. First, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Ms. Robertson, Mr. Como, and Mr. Montijo. I truly appreciate the service that you've provided over the years. It is a very tough job. I started paying more attention to these meetings around 3 years ago when COVID hit, and I was amazed at the professionalism and the honesty that you all 3 showed. And also, it is apparent that you truly care about the students, the staff, and the community, so thank you. I'm standing up here because I do want to give my support to the superintendent, to the school district, and to the school board. I agree with the direction that the school district is going in. Really, there's 3 reasons why I agree with the direction that school district is going in. One, I watched the teaching and learning committee meetings, and I really like the way that the curriculum vetting process is going. In order to improve our educational standards, we really have to take a close look at our curriculum with a holistic approach and find ways to give our talented educators the tools they need in order to succeed. The second thing is the discipline and raising the expectation level of our students. You can have the best curriculum in the world, but if you don't have the discipline in the classroom, then it's not going to be any use. And from what I'm seeing with the Student Services Committee meeting, that's being done. It's a difficult job in this day and age, but I think we're making the right steps forward. The final thing I want to talk about are the parental rights resolution that was passed a couple months ago. As a parent, I want to know what's going on in the schools, and I think that resolution is a good step for everyone to understand that it's really a partnership between the parents and the teachers. And
your time has ended.
Thank you very much. Time's up.
Thank you. Next is Monica Whaley, followed by Christy Miller, and then Stacy Keene.
I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the board president and our superintendent in their masterful deflection of responsibility regarding who exactly is in charge of this district. Class act. You completely washed your hands of all responsibility by blaming another administrator and principal. You have created such a toxic environment that every decision that was previously decided at the school level is now under scrutiny. No district employee wants to be reprimanded or fired, so they question everything. And who are those people in charge of those policies and their enforcement? Board president and superintendent. I would also like to acknowledge your other area of expertise, transparency. Never have you explained what was inappropriate about Rainbow Land or how it wasn't age appropriate. Did you look at the lyrics or just ban it because it had the R word? You also pressed the panic button when you published that added security was going to be posted at Higher and Lindholm. I would like to see the threats. The people arguing for inclusive, safe environments for all students in this district are not dangerous. We are working to protect their rights and their lives. Let's talk about DPI report that shows 0 complaints filed in this district. I personally know several families who have issued complaints. Policy number 5517 states, written or verbal complaints can be filed by any school employee. Every board member who sat in here and listened to those students tell their stories. What did you do? That's your moral obligation to do something. You heard their stories. That's your job. And not one of you contacted them after they told their stories. And 0 complaints to DPI. That's shameful.
Thank you. Next is Christy Miller, followed by Stacy Keene, and then Paul Reese.
I'm Christy Miller, and this is a really hard one for me. I have a personal story that I haven't spoke about to many people. In December 2021, just 3 weeks after Darrell Brooks drove an SUV through our parade, the teachers union staged a protest in our kids' classrooms. The protest was called Rainbow Friday. They planned this to stand in solidarity with a kindergarten teacher that refused to comply with a directive to remove her pride flag from the classroom. Several teachers posted about it. One said, "Tomorrow is Rainbow Flag Day at work. Time to speak out against the ignorance and stupidity of people within the SDW community. We must support all our students, not just those who are white and come from families with annoying parents." The union misused rainbows against the community. Our kids were their unwilling audience, and I posted in a district group and asked teachers to leave our kids out of their fight. Then they made every Friday Rainbow Friday. Then the Alliance group circulated a letter to collect signatures. They planned to submit the letter to the district just ahead of the holiday break. It said upon returning from break, they would be hanging whatever they want in our children's schools, and they would implement their own version of DELT in our schools. When I saw the letter, I posted it to let anyone who cared to know the group was going rogue. I posted about the teachers and protests 8 times that month, and when my 12-year-old son returned from break, he was given a serious 5-day suspension, and his assistant principal told me we needed to attend a pre-expulsion meeting that Friday, to which he wore an Alliance group t-shirt and rainbow gear, and I understood that my son was likely paying the price for my posts. A detective told me my son didn't do anything wrong a few days later, and I understood that this assistant principal did not like me. He did not like me advocating against.
Your time has ended.
Thank you. Next up is Stacy Keene, followed by Paul Reese, and then Keith Best.
Okay, first, thank you, Joe, Corey, and Karen. Corey and Karen, I will forever be grateful for your fight against this craziness these past few years. So the usual tactics of the Alliance for Education have been deployed. If you disagree, you're a homophobe and a racist. They want to silence this community. They want you to be afraid to speak, because if you do, you'll get doxxed and threatened. We are none of those things. We are all good people. An Alliance member and teacher tried to get me fired for wanting to remove mass quarantines and hardcore porn from our schools. So I get why people are afraid. The extreme activism of the Alliance will destroy all that you are fighting for. They are bringing chaos to this community. They are promoting lies with Rainbow Land, with the far left media, but take one look at this teacher's social media and you know what she is up to. She has used her first graders to publicly fight the district over their weaponized rainbow. I should be thanking the Alliance for showing the world this was always about their weaponized rainbow. I thought it was about a group of first graders singing a song about loving the world. It's weird how quickly their motive changed. The Alliance is also recently advocating for this porn to be put in the hands of minors. It's so disgusting. The Alliance members can read the excerpts that I brought tonight. I have copies. They can justify to every taxpayer the educational
30
value.
seconds.
I would bet there are, or I would read them tonight, but they are so much worse than the last book I read here at this podium. To close, I want to say that each family has their own values, and a teacher has no right to come between that, which is what Melissa Temple has done. Most parents are good enough, and teachers like Melissa, who caused this chaos in our
Your time has
community,
ended.
need to keep their ideology to themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Paul Reese, followed by Keith Best, and then Kurt O'Brien.
Good evening. One thing real quick, I want to talk about research teaching methods were brought up tonight. You mean like all that we went through during COVID, that was all research teaching methods? How about kids with IEPs? How about kids with IEPs in speech? How about kids in the 1 percentile for speech in elementary school? Where were the research teaching methods to show a kid how to say "s" with a mask on? Where are those research teaching methods? None of them were whining about those when they were screwing our kids over. Now, that being said, I want to thank Corey Montiel for this time on this board. He's been a blessing. You fought the good fight. You were always a voice of reason. I always enjoyed listening to you speak. You made me lean forward and listen. I think one time we had a disagreement. I said something as you being a lawyer, and you took it as a pejorative, and I didn't mean it that way at all. And as the conversation wore on, I think we got through that. But it was always a pleasure having you around, Corey. You fought the good fight. You fought up against the masked bullies that were here. You did the right thing. You took the arrows when you needed to, and I can't thank you for your service enough. And this goes for the three of you. I know the time that's involved in this. I know every one of you how much time is involved in this board and doing the things that you do. And you get paid a pittance for what you do. I've argued one time and a couple times about the way a raise was done, but I never said that you were overpaid for what you do. And I want to make that clear. Joe, thank you for what you've done. I was thinking of a couple words that describe you. A rock, a keel. You were the light that guided this ship during hard times. You were an impressive leader. You made this a better place. Karen, I can't say enough about you. I was here at that beginning. I remember when you walked in and you were just a mom concerned about your kids. And I remember those days talking to you when you first came in here and you had announced that you were running for board. And I got to stand outside and talk to you. And that's what you were concerned about. You were just a mom who was in STEM, and you were worried about your kids.
Thank you, Paul. Keith Best, followed by Kurt O'Brien, and then Michelle Halaska.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here representing my children and my children's children. And on behalf of all of us, I would like to thank the three of you who are leaving tonight. Joe Como, we might not have agreed on everything, but I know your intentions were always good, and you've worked hard over these years, and I appreciate all you've done. We appreciate all you've done. Karen, nobody should have gone through what you went through when you were lied about, you were smeared, not only in Waukesha, but nationally. And I appreciate everything that you've done for the school board, and continued success to you, whatever you do after this. It took me a long time to learn how to say Reinacek, and then you got married, so. But, and then Corey Montiel, I've gotten to know you, and I appreciate everything you've done. You deserve to be reelected, and I'm sad that it hasn't happened. I really do support everything the school board is doing. I'll just piggyback on and ditto some of the other comments that have been made as far as the direction. At one time I talked to this board about, if need be, removing my grandchildren and helping my kids pay for private schools. I don't think that's necessary anymore as long as this school board continues in the direction that it is. I thank you all. Ignore the vocal minority, for you were elected by the majority of conservative people in this Waukesha area, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kurt O'Brien, followed by Michelle Halaska, and then Marilyn Granger.
Thank you. I'm going to direct most of my comments to Mr. Como tonight. I normally don't pick out a board member to direct comments to, and it's not meant to slight Mr. Montiel or Ms. Robertson. I congratulate you all on your service. I hope you enjoy your next phase of life, and we've worked together on a number of things in the past. Sometimes we've been at odds, but sometimes we've been together, and I've always appreciated that. So now I want to direct my comments to Mr. Como, and the reason I chose Mr. Como is he was my board president for quite some time. And from the very beginning of my involvement in the school district as a parent, we worked to get Joe Como elected to the school board way back when, amongst other people. And Joe has never disappointed anyone in terms of his service on the board. Doesn't mean everybody always agreed with him. Doesn't mean he always voted the way people wanted him to vote. But the reality is, Joe always had the best interests of the community, the students, and the staff in mind. He acted that way day in and day out. Another wonderful thing about Joe is his ability to debate, take a strong stand, and still be able to shake hands and respect the other person at the end of the day, win or lose. And I don't want to run out of time to where I want to mention, not only was Joe a great person to be around as a board member and as a board president. Joe's a great son.
30 seconds.
He's a great father, and he's a great husband. And I don't think you can say anything greater about a man than those three things. So congratulations, Joe.
Thank you. Next up is Michelle Halaska, followed by Marilyn Granger, and then Isaiah Castillo. Michelle? Is Michelle here? Okay, I'm going to move on. Marilyn?
Good evening. I'm happy to be here with you folks, and I want to commend the board for the work that you have done. I've served on boards in the past, and it's a hard job. It's time-consuming. You all have done some wonderful policies that needed to be put together. They're good. It takes time, it takes thought, and it just to get everything right with the goal of the safety and the betterment of the students. That's what it's all about, the students. So you're doing a great job. And I think it's a sad day when we have to be so careful about what word we say because it's going to have a different connotation to this person or that person. I listened to Rainbow Land. I'd never heard it before. I've heard a lot of Dolly Parton songs, and they're always wonderful. And this really is got a great tune to it, and it makes you happy, and you want to kind of like dance around. But I had to play it a couple of times to make sure I got all the words, and there are words that, like I say, in this day and age, would be considered red flags. A long time ago, that would have never been an issue, but now it is. And I commend the teacher
30 seconds.
that brought that up. It took a lot of courage to say something that she didn't want to upset anyone. First graders, kindergartners, second graders, they don't need to have any gender identification business. They just want to be kids. And picking out Rainbow by Kermit the Frog, that was a great idea, because that's a happy song, and nobody had any problem with it. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next up is Isaiah Castillo Hurtado, followed by Mike Walsh, and then, I can't read it, Tariq. I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Go ahead.
I'd like to introduce myself. First of all, my name is Isaiah Castillo, and I'm a North High School student and a CISA 1 student in Project Success. I'm standing here today before the school board to speak about the recent banning of the song Rainbow Land by Miley Cyrus and Dolly Parton. I would like to formally ask the school board and or the superintendent why they think it's appropriate to set this example for our first graders. We're telling our young students to be afraid to love each other, to be afraid to accept differences, and to be afraid to be kind. Does the school board promote bullying? Does the school board promote hate? The decision to ban the song sets a dangerous precedent, banning songs that have no obvious correlation to any controversial subject. Are rainbows considered gay now? Are rainbows controversial in general? What's so controversial about rainbows? And when will this idiotic madness end? Waukesha's constant politicalization is a danger to this community and a danger to students especially. We are putting our students in danger, especially our elementary school age students in danger, making these constant flawed decisions based on right-wing mobs and anger towards specified and marginalized communities. Like a past speaker said, we have been in the news several times. The last time because we didn't want to feed kids for free with federal money, because it would, and I quote, spoil them. When's the next time we're going to be on national news? When's the next time we're going to be on the Wall Street Journal? When's the next time we're going to make headlines? These constant national media attacks on our community have solely been the fault of this board and the superintendent, and you have no excuse for it.
Thank you. Mike Walsh, followed by, I think it's Tariq Kamut.
Hi, everyone. So Waukesha is in the news again, that is correct. And there's been a media circus that has been following us, and it's been so exciting tonight that 2 of the 3 have already left. So the one thing about the media circus that Waukesha's in is which one of the radical right-wing conservatives that, you know, are the perceived troublemakers have called the Washington Post, who have called Stephen Colbert. Who's done it? The Alliance has contacted all these people. The reason Waukesha is in the news is because of a radical group called Waukesha Alliance for Education with zero interest in education. It's only in indoctrination. So the song at Rainbow Land, is that really the issue? The issue is that we actually have people that have policies. So like if I, in my work, if I say, hey, I'm going to sing this song, and my boss says no, you know what my choice is? No, right? I stop, and I move on, and I introduce another song. When I then go, no, I'm going to still push it forward, okay, that then puts my job in jeopardy. In the real world, non-union world, right? When you have union backing, unions are just the scourge of society, right? They just bring problems forward. We got problems in schools where kids, okay, are acting out. Where are they learning the behavior from? Maybe the teacher that was mentioned earlier, Mrs. Temple, right? When she's out there in the media saying what she's saying on Twitter, getting at Steve. Who cares if Stephen Colbert don't like us, right? What do we care? We're Waukesha. We're not Hollywood. We're not those people. We are our district. People want to come here because we actually are making change standing up for kids. You guys are standing up for kids. That's what you're here for, okay? So there was another teacher who was brought up tonight, Christine Beck. She was an activist teacher back in 1987 when I had her. She used to kick me out of class every day for my disagreements with her because she was an activist. 2 activist teachers named tonight. Kind of ironic.
Thank you. Tonight's last speaker is Tariq Ahmed.
Good evening, I'm Tariq Ahmed. My daughter graduated from South, and she asked me to give you guys hell. Well, I think if I used her definition of hell, you guys would throw me out. First, I'd like to congratulate the 3 board members who are leaving, Mr. Montijo and Karen Reinacek. I know you by that name, so. And I best know Joe Como over the years of his service. Thank you, Joe. I mean, I don't need to add to some of the comments that other folks have made. But you know what? With this controversy, you guys got a lot of publicity. You should be proud of yourself. Wall Street Journal, BBC, other, you know, whenever I look on my phone, you know, this is not good for Waukesha. You know, we are, you know, I'm unlike most of the people here. If I hold certain views, does that make me a bad person? No. Diversity brings progress. That is the strength of America. And we should embrace it rather than try and get rid of it. Okay? You know, we should not follow the lead of the Taliban here, who don't let women go to school and stuff like that. We need to be diverse, and we need to get rid of this. There's nothing wrong with rainbows. There's nothing, we don't gain anything by banning books. I am a different person from when I first went to college in 1978 when I came from Pakistan, okay? My views at that time and my views this time are different. Because what? I was exposed to diversity. Thank you.
Your time has ended.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. I want to again just acknowledge the courage and appreciate everyone sticking to the time limit tonight and carrying on with civility, so thank you. We are moving on to our minute approval. The minutes that are up for approval tonight are the March 8th regular board meeting, March 8th executive session, and April 5th executive session and executive expulsion hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Montijo,
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Como. Any further discussion? All right, Sue, would you take the roll call, please?
Corey Montiel.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey.
Aye.
Karen Robertson.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Raquel Moore.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Joseph Como.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Thank you. Next on our general business is our communications. Dr. Siebert, or would we start with the WEF report?
We can
You're out
start
of
with
order.
communications.
Okay.
That's okay. I do have one, and I'm happy to report that the Classic 8 Conference has recognized Waukesha North for the Classic 8 Conference Sportsmanship Award for the past winter seasons for 4 sports: girls basketball, boys swim and dive, and boys hockey. So that says a lot about Carl Anderson, the entire coaching staff, and all of the student athletes and families. So congratulations to North on those conference sportsmanship awards.
Thank you. That's great news. Always makes us proud of our kids when they're recognized for sportsmanship, so thank you. All right, the WEF update given by Mr. Borowski.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Piasek. Several items to report on tonight. So first of all, just on behalf of WEF, just a thank you really to everybody in the community for attending the March 9th event, Evening for Education. You know, in spite of the inclement weather a second time, we really had a packed house and just a wonderful celebration. And I just feel like it displayed the best of what the district is all about. People from all different parts of the community coming together to, support the district and raise money for student learning. So I think that was great. We're still finalizing numbers, but preliminary numbers looks like we made close to $30,000. And that's really all in spite of, like I said, the blizzard. People might not have realized this, but we kind of rushed the auction as we pushed for an earlier dinner and some people leaving early and things like that. So before the roads got bad. So we're going to continue this event in the first part of the year. We're targeting either March or early April. And it's really going to be based on the spring break schedule and the Easter holiday. Right now, we're targeting April 11th, and we're checking on hotel availability. So more to come on that. Next bit of news is the grant window. So our 2023 grant window is closed on April 7th. The review committee is currently scoring the grants, and announcements will be made in May, so stay tuned to that. And if you missed it, we do have a record $50,000 to award this year, which is fantastic. The announcement date really is a surprise, so we're just going to show up in the schools one day in May, as you may know. So that should be fun. Looking ahead to the next fundraiser is the golf registration is open right now. So again, August 3rd at Ironwood is the date. And some really good news already on the early part of the planning for this. We've already sold $7,950 in scholarships. Most of them have been returning sponsors, so that's really amazing. We have a handful of major sponsorships left. There is a list at your desk. I think you've got 3 items at your desk regarding WEF. So that's one of them. And again, if you know someone, please reach out for sponsorships. We can never have enough of that. We do have plenty of one-hole sponsorships left, and those are, I guess, only, quote-unquote, $100. So again, you could personalize them with a family name, business name, or a message. And again, a snapshot of available sponsorships are at your desk as well. And of course, the website always has the most updated information. We do have already registered 70 golfers, so that's a good number of golfers and sponsors. And again, we just opened the golf publicly today, so that number is just returning golfers and sponsors. So I think this event is really kind of getting traction and repeat people on a consistent basis, and a lot of them, which is great. The green handout you have in front of you, it's got a link to the website for all the most updated information. You can both register as well as be a sponsor if you're interested in that. And if you want to pay by check or need to invoice your business, you can contact the office. They can take care of that for you. This event does sell out, so even though it's April and this is in August, less than 4 months away, we do recommend trying to register or sponsor early. Another category is the annual sponsorship. So this is, the renewals are pouring in with great success. Can never have too many. So again, if you know anybody that wants to be a sponsor, just let us know. We'll connect with them. And then lastly, kind of along with the grants, we have rolled out the new scholarship software this year and have had a tremendous response so far from students. Scholarship applications are currently in review, and they'll be awarded in mid-May as well. We have 361 applications across all 3 high schools, so really a great response. So I think the software is doing what we hoped it would do. And I think that's pretty much it. I think you've got the contact information for Lynette Calmage in the WEF office, if you want to contact her, and if anybody has any questions or anything.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? The driving ranges are open, so everybody can start practicing now.
Yeah, I was just at a chamber meeting this morning at a driving range, so it's the first time I'd seen that. It's great.
We've got a few months. All right, moving on to our consent agenda. We will begin with Mr. Clerk. Would you present the public gifts, please?
Yeah, several gifts tonight. The district received $1,000 from Spring City Garden Club to be used for the Environmental Education Department. Waukesha Maid received $3,500 from Proleg GE Waukesha to be used for repair or purchase of equipment or project supplies. Bantine Elementary received $500 from Tom and Amelia Mesereau to purchase items and tools to meet the individual needs of all their learners in the monolingual 4K kindergarten class. Les Paul received $750 from an anonymous donor to help pay off outstanding lunch balances for students most in need. And South High School received $1,000 from James Newman to be used for equipment in the weight room.
All right, thank you. Thank you to everyone for that generosity. Your agenda tonight includes various categories for approval, and if any board member wishes to have any of these items set aside for separate consideration, you'll have that opportunity. Included in the items for approval tonight are also the decisions of the expulsion panel, which met on April 5th, 2023. A confidential communication regarding the details of the expulsion was in your packet Friday, along with the minutes that are included under item 1G. If any board member wishes to discuss this item, we have scheduled an executive session at the close of the regular meeting tonight. Approval of the consent agenda confirms full board agreement with the expulsion panel's action. We also have Policy 6700, Fair Labor Standards Act, which was approved by the HR Committee in March. And so at this time, if any board member wishes to have an item set aside for separate consideration, please indicate so now. All right, seeing none. Mrs. Robertson, will you please present the full consent agenda for approval?
Yes, thank you. Earlier this evening, the Human Resources and Compensation Committee approved 13 resignations, 2 leave requests, and 5 new or modified contracts. The information was provided in your packet and an addendum was placed at your desk. I move that the consent agenda be approved as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Como. Thank you. Any further questions? All right, Sue, would you please take the roll call?
Carrie Kozlowski. Aye. Karen Robertson.
Aye.
Corey Montiel.
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey.
Aye.
Joseph Como.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Markel Moore.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye. Passes 9-0. Thank you. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Seaborn.
All right, thank you, Dr. Piasek. Just a couple of items for the board tonight. First, our recognition of winter season state and national activities and sports teams and individuals is going to take place at the May board meeting, so we'll look forward to that. And that will also be the final board meeting of all time here at the Lindholm Building, as by the time we get to the end of May, we'll be closing, and by June, we'll be having our board meetings in the library at Blair, which will now be the boardroom. So that will be a special night coming up here in just over a month. Second, I certainly would like to wish Mr. Como and Mrs. Robertson and Mr. Montijo all the best. You'll always have a special place in my heart as part of the team that brought me here to Waukesha, for which I will always be very grateful. So thank you very much for that. And third, high school graduation, we have a sign-up sheet that I will pass probably this way, and when you have time, we have the South High School graduation on June 10th at 9, North at 11, and WEST at 1 o'clock, along with eAchieve at 1 o'clock. Sign up for one, or you can sign up for multiple if you'd like. It's up to you, but one is generally what we have done. And when it gets down to Markel, he'll get it to Sue, and we'll move it back up that way. And high school graduation, obviously, is one of the greatest things that all of us get to do each year. So, and if you need gowns or anything like that, we'll take care of all that for you. So that is not that far off either, as the clock keeps ticking here. So, and thank you also to Dr. Piasek for her idea of updating the policy and the board for supporting that policy so that the board members that are leaving us today also can attend those ceremonies, which will be special, in addition to our new board members who will be joining us as well.
That'd be great. Thank you.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siebert. Days like this are nice reminders that we're coming up on graduation when we have 80 degrees and sunny. So we're getting there. All right. Our first committee update tonight is the HR committee, which will be given by Mrs. Robertson.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we had our approval of comp time revisions. Suggested revisions to comp time were brought to the February Board of Education meeting for review. There were no additional changes suggested by the board. Revisions are available for review in board docs. Mrs. President, I move to approve the revisions to comp time as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Kozlowski. Any additional conversation about the comp time changes? Okay, seeing none, Sue, would you take the roll call, please?
Anthony Zenobia?
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey?
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski? Aye.
Markel Moore,
Aye.
Mark Borowski,
Aye.
Joseph Como,
Aye.
Corey Montijo.
Aye.
Karen Robertson,
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson. All right, just for a check-in with the policy committee, Mr. Montijo, any updates tonight?
No. Dr. Cook, I believe there's a Neola update coming shortly, and I think we'll have a policy committee next month.
It's possible. We are meeting in 2 weeks with Neola to go through the updated packet.
Okay.
And we'll be dealing with a bit of a transition as Julie Kelleher has resigned. So we'll be doing some onboarding and trying to build up some internal capacity to deal with the data entry, the policy development component of the board docs platform. So that will be coming probably in May, will be the first time we get together.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Cook. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Montijo. Next up is the Finance and Facilities Committee presented by Mr. Como.
Thank you, Madam President.
This is like the greatest hits of the board members that are leaving.
There you go. There you go. Tonight we have one action item and 4 discussion items. Our action item is the approval of a West High School entrance. The committee discussed the temporary and permanent easements needed for the reconstruction of the West High main school entrance. The committee approved the easements as presented, and I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McCaffrey. Any discussion? All right, Sue, please take the roll call.
Markel Moore,
Aye.
Joseph Como,
Aye.
Corey Montijo.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Karen Robertson,
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0.
I just want to sign up real quick for graduation.
Okay.
Moving on to the discussion items. The first one is the monthly budget report. Our revenues and expenditures continue to be within the budgeted limits for both the general and the special education funds. The district is operating in accordance with our approved budget and all other funds as well. Moving on to tax incremental financing, District Number 17. The committee discussed the City of Waukesha Tax Incremental Financing Amendment Plan for TIF District Number 17. The committee provided general feedback on the amendments, but made no formal recommendation to the School District of Waukesha's Joint Review Board representative. But we did give Mr. Cook a lot of things to think about. So we had a good conversation. Any discussion on that? Okay. Moving on to our third discussion item, which is the health insurance update. Part of the district's plan to balance the 2023-2024 budget calls for the administration reaching a zero health premium increase for the next fiscal year. The proposed plan is based on the following factors. First, the high deductible health plan deductible will be adjusted in accordance with federal mandates for fiscal year 2023-2024, along with an increase in the non-HRA participants' employees' copays. Second, the financing plan will again call for a utilization of $800,000 of existing health claim reserves. $400,000 of this was carried over from the reserves from the 2022-2023 year. And third, two previous board actions continue to play a large role in reaching the budgetary goal. The transition of the employee health clinic's operation to Pro Healthcare is saving the district roughly $500,000 annually, and the implementation of the specialty drug program, which to date has saved the district over $1.8 million. Some good news to share on that. Any discussion on?
Mrs. Kozlowski.
Thank you. I really just want to highlight a lot of the great work, obviously, that Mr. Clark is doing. But when we start to talk and really look about coming into a year where we're not increasing health insurance costs, in an era where across other jobs, industries, and whatnot, we are seeing significant health insurance increases. And this is another value add for our staff and our employees in this district to recognize that this is great news when we take a look at overall compensation packages.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, and the final discussion item is the ESSER update. All of the ESSER funds have been assigned and approved. We're now providing updates on the amount of money that has been received by the district. The committee will continue to keep you updated on the spend down of the ESSER funds, and you can always go out to our website to check out detailed information on that. And any discussion on that? All right, well, Madam President, this concludes my final report.
Thank you, Mr. Como. I think it really just does reflect the amount of work that all three of you have contributed to the board this year, so thank you so much. And next is our Teaching and Learning Committee update given by Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you, Dr. Piasek. So the Teaching and Learning Committee had met last week, Tuesday, April 4th, and we have 6 discussion information items. Our first item is an action item, and it is for the approval of our assessment for early reading readiness. Earlier this year, the districts were notified that the Phonological Awareness Literacy Screening, PALS, assessment was retiring and would no longer be available. At the March T&L meeting, a report was provided regarding the process our team has taken to recommend FastBridge as the assessment tool to replace PALS. Highlighted in the report and presentation were additional benefits in moving forward with the FastBridge assessments in our schools, including the opportunity to reduce the number of assessment systems, the financial commitment, and, for some students, reduce the number of assessments. So on a vote of 5-0, the T&L committee approved this purchase of FastBridge and the administration of these assessments for the 2023-24 school year to meet the requirements of state statute 118.016 in the area of reading readiness. The committee requests board approval, and I so move. I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Montijo. Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Borowski.
Yes, I did have a couple questions, but I'm wondering if, with the absence of Ms. Landish and Ms. Ginnerman, I'm not sure if someone else can answer or not, but I guess I'll just ask them and we'll see. Regarding the FastBridge, one of the things that they said that the benefit was providing the additional data needed for interventions, that one assessment could provide that, and that the PALS and MAP needed the additional assessment of the Ames Web assessment. And I was just curious, what was it about that assessment that provided the data that the others did not. I don't know if I don't think she went into that kind of detail, but it was more just a curiosity.
I'm not sure that I understand your question.
So I think I'll try to be clear. One of the advantages of the Fast Bridge is that one single assessment provided the additional data anytime an intervention was needed, where the PALS and the MAP assessments did not. They needed an additional assessment, which was the Ames Web assessment, in order to provide that data for an intervention. So I'm just curious if you know, what was it about the Fast Bridge that provided that data initially?
Got it. Yeah, we did ask Ms. Skennerman to come to the table, so she'll be able to answer that
I didn't
for
know
you.
you were still here, so
Yeah.
great. I'm glad you are.
Hi, I can answer that question. So one of the things we look for in different assessment systems is one is having a universal screener to serve as that purpose. And so the FastBridge assessment has assessments to serve the purpose of that early reading readiness as a universal screener. So looking at how students are performing in the area of literacy across just general educational outcomes. Currently, right now, we use MAP for that. In addition to that, we use a different assessment system called Ames Web that serves as a progress monitoring system. MAP doesn't have the standardized data to serve as the progress monitoring, where FastBridge has both. So you can use it as a universal screener and a progress monitoring tool. Progress monitoring is typically done for students in a structured intervention and allows those decision data points in case a student were to go to a special education evaluation. We need norm data and standardized data for that. And so FastBridge will serve as both.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then just, I guess, one other question, if I may. Since PAL is being discontinued, I'm assuming other districts are facing the same challenge of replacing it. The team that you mentioned, did they do any research or benchmarking with the other districts on what they're doing? If you could just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
And how that might have informed our decision or not.
Yep, that was one of the first initial steps. Once we found out the information that things were changing, we already had an assessment and data team already working on different deliverables. So we added this to the deliverable list. Our first question was, what are other people doing? I have a list of a document from CISA 1 regional districts that articulates who's using what as a universal screener as well as a progress monitoring tool. I can say throughout the CISA 1 area, depending on the district, people are using a variety of assessments, anywhere from STAR, MAP, FastBridge, Ames Web, any combination. There are several other districts that have been using PALS along with us that have had to make a decision of where they're going to go. CISA 1 was kind enough to provide some educational sessions on just different district experiences to help us make that decision. But we did review everything that other districts are using around us and throughout the state, as well as talking with colleagues of how's it going with FastBridge, that sort of thing, prior to making any decisions.
Okay. All right.
The jury's still out right now on what other districts are doing. I think we were one of the first to the game. I think that's a good thing. We're able to get our systems onboarded. Providing we have an approval from the board, we'll be onboarding our systems this spring yet, so that next year, as other systems and districts are onboarding, we're ahead of the curve.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Kozlowski, did you have a question?
I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Borowski just a couple things when we took a look. A lot of the focus that we've seen, especially with new systems, so while there's an assessment tool, but we're finding a place that we can get now assessments that are leading with a student across the board that show the milestones, not only on needing the extra help, but as the assessments as they take, so it's growing with the child. That is consistent with curriculum that we are also trying to implement in the same lockstep, that it follows with it and is consistent through the schools from elementary through secondary. So from that standpoint, I think it's a much better benchmark and saving place that we can see holistically where a child is without having to try to piecemeal systems and tests together to try to help the student along. And we can see it as they progress through their educational career.
right, any other questions? So, okay, Sue, go ahead with the roll call.
Karen Robertson.
Aye.
Markel Moore.
Aye.
Joseph Como.
Aye.
Mark Borowski.
Aye.
Corey Montiel.
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia.
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey.
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski.
Aye.
Kelly Piasek.
Aye, passes 9-0. Back to you.
Our first discussion information item is on the gifted and talented update. During the January meeting, of course, we met with the board, which was provided an update, that was our first update, rather, in January, on the gifted and talented program in the school district. Following this update, it was requested that a budget proposal be drafted to address the concerns brought forward by the board to approve our current gifted and talented program model. This proposal was presented to the T&L committee and includes the addition of gifted and talented advocates for grades 3 through 8, along with after-school programming and materials. This is a program area we will prioritize in the upcoming school year with staff, parents, and our students, and continue to seek budget resources to enhance this area of support. Our second information item then was on our elementary math curriculum preview and the pilot results. The math curriculum was up for review in our curricular design process, and at the February meeting, Melissa Yao and Rose Palmer shared Phase 1 in this process. The presentation included information on the rationale for review, resources for consideration, timeline, and the team for the elementary math pilot. At the March meeting, we reviewed 2 math programs, iReady and Bridges, the rubric for analyzing these programs, and the additional pilot information. Ms. Yao and Ms. Palmer were joined by 3 of the math pilot team members who shared their experiences in both pilots and spoke to the qualities of iReady, which received unanimous support from the pilot team. iReady will be recommended for approval in May. Students at Hadfield will continue with the very popular Numbers Corners foundational fluency from Bridges as an additional universal layer for them, but iReady will be recommended for implementation at all of our elementary schools. Our third discussion item was on the adoption of the Desmos and IXL at the middle school level curriculums. The math team piloted these resources, Zern and Desmos, in an effort to come forth with a recommended resource for adoption and implementation in 2023 and 2024 school year. After a thorough review of the resource and analysis of the teacher and student feedback, and the development of an implementation plan, the team is recommending the adoption of Desmos for 6th, 7th, 8th grade monolingual and dual language math classrooms. Additionally, the team's recommendation to adopt IXL as a supplemental resource to support math and English language arts was outlined for use by all middle school students.
Mr. Zenobia, I think, Ms. Kozlowski, did you have a question about the elementary math pilot?
I do. So, Mr. Zenobia, you mentioned that iReady was the recommended choice that was unanimous. I do not recall in the meeting that we had made any agreement or there was further discussion that Hadfield was going to stay with Bridges.
He didn't say that.
No, I believe it's part of it was the Numbers Corners portion of Bridges.
Because I believe we were still talking with the overall view as to what Hadfield would look like and rolling forward with that, right? That discussion, I don't think, was resolved specifically for Hadfield. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I missed your question. Moving on to our fourth information item was on the elementary writing Year 1 implementation update. In June of '22, the T&L committee approved the benchmark writers workshop for grades K to 5 for a 6-year agreement of print and digital materials. Implementation began last fall. Melissa Yao and Emily Friedman shared a 1-year implementation update around the professional development, teacher and student feedback, the classroom examples, and next steps.
Questions?
And our fifth information item was on the elementary phonics update. Benchmark Phonics Word Study Workshop for grades K to 5 began implementation during the 2020-21 school year. As we near completion of the third year of implementation, the team provided an update including the professional learning for teachers, teacher feedback, and student data samples and classroom examples. And moving on to our sixth informational item. This was the middle school ELA update. 3 English language arts curricular resources were piloted in both monolingual and dual language grades 6 to 8 over the past several months, including StudySync, Galleria, and My Perspectives. T.R. Rogers and Nancy Ronke provided a synthesis of teacher feedback for each resource and shared the team's curricular resource recommendation, which is My Perspectives. Included in the presentation was a comparison analysis highlighting the features of the recommended resource as well as providing the proposed professional development plan and estimated resource cost. And so the TNL committee will be asked to take action in these following areas during the May meeting in elementary math, middle school math, as well as middle school English language arts. And so that concludes my report. The next meeting is Tuesday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zenobia. There's a lot going on in the world of teaching and learning and curriculum and instruction, so that's a lot of positive improvements. Mr. Borowski?
Just one quick question, if I could circle back to the gifted and talented. Ms. Rogers had said the budget was like $37,910, but she also mentioned some of her comparisons were back to like 2016, 2017. So I was just wondering if the committee or Mr. Clark or whoever it might be is going to put in a 20 or 25% increase on whatever that is, just to maybe budget closer.
Ms. Kozlowski?
So we had asked Ms. Rogers to update that budget estimate, knowing that it was outdated, knowing that we're behind on identification of a bunch of students and what additional materials that we would need, especially with the advocates being on site, to reflect as to presenting a number as to what do you think we really need versus trying to look historically, because we have a catch-up to do.
Gotcha. Might have missed that. Thank you.
Anything for administration on that? I think we're still, this is still a work in progress. It was a step in the right direction, but we still have to work the budget magic and wait and see what.
Yeah, their allocations are being finalized, and then we'll just incorporate that into a sum total within their department budget, so some reallocation might be needed, but I don't think it would be significant.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Zenobia.
Thank you.
The next committee is Student Services, given by Mr. McCaffrey.
Thank you, Madam President. We had no action items on our agenda in March, but we did have 6 discussion information items. First discussion information item is Policy 5511, Dress and Grooming. As requested by a committee member, this policy was added to the agenda. Dr. Cook invited the secondary principals to the meeting. The committee had the opportunity to ask the principals questions about how the dress code is addressed in their schools. Dr. Cook said the communication about the dress code will be sent to secondary families after spring break. Okay. Oh, yes.
Karen, can you speak in your microphone?
Of course. Can you just repeat the last sentence? What will happen before spring or after spring break?
A communication will be sent about the dress code to secondary families.
Okay, to just remind them about it?
And that did happen.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Our second item is Empowering Minds Mental Health Initiative. Amanda Weiler and Jim McLaughlin from the United Way presented information about a new opportunity for school-based mental health assistance at South High School. The initiative would supplement the work already being done at South around mental health. It would be the first program in the state around these 6 milestones: needs assessment, collaboration, referral pathways, comprehensive resources, sustainability, and evaluation. Any questions on that? comments? All righty, moving on to our third is Youth Behavioral Risk Survey. The results from the fall 2021 Youth Behavioral Risk Survey were presented by Mark Leonard. This survey was delayed approximately 6 months due to the pandemic issues in the 2020-2021 school year.
I just have one follow-up on that. I know that this came up at the committee, but do we have any updates on the timeline for the most recent year results?
Sorry. We usually get results about 4 or 5 months after the administration. So I'm trying to, slipping my mind as to when we administered it this year, but usually the results come in the summer or early fall of the last administration.
So soon.
Soon.
Yeah, thank you.
My fourth item is providing access to help, which is called PATH. A summary of PATH therapy services in our schools was presented by Mark Leonard. The program is offered through Family Service of Waukesha. The cost of the therapy is billed to the student's insurance or Medicare. The current capacity is 96 appointments at 13 schools, and 92% of those appointments are filled. The barrier to adding more schools is a lack of therapists. Often, the unfilled appointments are due to the slow return of paperwork from the families. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Moore.
Just wondering, how can we create, you said because of the slow return of the applications, how can we, work with administration, I guess, or how can we make it more streamlined or a quicker process where they can just kind of get back to, getting the applications filled in a lot sooner, work with the families in a different strategy. I do think that this is important. I do think that, we do need to address mental health, and I'm all for that. And so I'm all on board with that. I just, I hope that just want to find a way, how can we encourage the families to fill out the applications more sooner so that they can get the resources and support that they need for their students.
Yeah, we're currently doing home visits to try to get paperwork signed. We have administrators and student services staff at cars with paperwork and clipboards, and we're doing reasonably everything that we could possibly do to get those signatures. Sometimes we just don't get anything back. We don't get engagement. We see a need in students, but we're not getting any follow-up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our fifth item is the Rural Behavioral Health Institute, Revere Geist and John Geist from Merit Solutions, and Janet Lindau from the Montana Rural Behavioral Health Initiative organization discussed the work that is being done in Montana to address issues relating to youth anxiety, depression, and suicide. They provided information about their online screening tool and how the schools use that information to assist students with their mental health needs. Any questions on that? Mr. Moore?
I want to say the staff in Montana did an excellent job in providing the data and examples and resources that they provide for the students in their state. And so I'm looking forward to how we can just, move forward with that information and see what's going to be next in the next couple months for our students here in Waukesha.
Agreed.
At the April meeting next week, we're going to be continuing that discussion and showing what a possible model could look like in Waukesha. So we'll talk more next week about that.
Thank you. My final item is discipline work group update. The work group consists of 3 people from each school building, principal, a teacher, and a student services staff member. The school teams are developing plans for their specific schools in conjunction with their SAIL work. The group meets again on April 27th. Any questions about the discipline group? Alrighty, seeing none. Our next meeting is April 18th at 6 p.m. in the boardroom, and Madam President, that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. McCaffrey. All right, that concludes our regular business. At this time, I'd just like to ask if any board members have recommendations for future board or committee action or discussion items. Mr. Zenobia.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask that administration and the board revisit how we communicate with the public in general, but also in times where a lot of misinformation is spread in light of even local news sources that only pursue one side of a story. I think it's paramount for us to, correct that record and try to message. Now, as board members in open session, we have to do that here. But I think it's risen to the level that we should discuss how we would like communication to go forward. And so I know I've brought this up in the past, but I think maybe it's time to take a look at it. So, thank you.
Thank you. You could take that for consideration.
Absolutely. I think you and I just can talk about how we do that, and it's a great topic.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? All right. We do have the need for, we have multiple needs for executive session tonight, so I would be looking for a motion to cover items C, D, and E. Mr. Moore.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. People, transportation, and food service contracts. I would like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session per Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent F, to consider financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personal problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, specifically to consider a complaint filed against district personnel under School Board Policy 9130. Excuse me. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85, parent 1, parent F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary considerations of specific personal problems, or investigation of charges against specific persons, except where parent B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such history or data or involved in such problems or investigations, specifically to discuss preliminary consideration of personal problems in the investigation of charges related to a specific district employee.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McCaffrey. We do require a roll call to go to closed session. Sue?
Joseph Como?
Aye.
Corey Manteo?
Aye.
Mark Borowski?
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski?
Aye.
Patrick McCaffrey?
Aye.
Karen Robertson?
Aye.
Markel Moore?
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia?
Aye.
Kelly Piasek?
Aye. Passes 9-0, so we are adjourned in our regular session. Thank you, everyone. Okay, all right, looks like we're on. We have reconvened from closed session. Mrs. Kozlowski, would you take the roll call, please?
Karen Robertson?
Aye.
Pat McCaffrey?
Aye.
No,
Joe
here.
Como?
This is not a vote. This is attendance.
Here.
This is the vote to go back into open session. Voting to go back into open session.
We did that already.
Did we closed? Oh, did we?
We did that in closed session.
Oh, okay.
Let me just reset everyone. So this
Can leave during.
this is a roll call attendance vote.
I gotcha.
You want to? Thank you.
Here.
Anthony Zenobia?
Here.
Kelly Piasek?
Here.
Carrie Kozlowski? Here. Corey Manteo?
Here.
Mark Borowski?
Here.
Markel Moore?
Here.
Thank you. All right, everyone is present. So I'd like to hand it back over to Mr. Como to present the food service contract that was discussed at the Finance and Facilities meeting.
Thank you. A food service committee was put together to evaluate the request for proposals for food service. We received 2 proposals for premium food and 1 proposal for core food. After reviewing the presentations, sampling the food, and having site visits, the Food Service Committee evaluated all aspects of the contract as required by the Department of Public Construction. Aramark Premium scored the highest. Aramark Premium scored the highest. The Finance and Facilities Committee reviewed the proposals and approved Aramark as the recommended food service company for the 2023-2024 school year with 4 one-year options, and I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Borowski. All right, any further discussion or questions? All right. Mrs. Kozlowski, can I just ask, could we go to the broad view on the camera? Is that possible? Okay.
Why?
That's pretty broad, right there.
I don't think we have to.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Mrs. Kozlowski, can you take the roll call vote, please?
Mark Borowski,
Aye.
Anthony Zenobia,
Aye.
Mark Elmore,
No.
Kelly Piasek,
Aye.
Carrie Kozlowski, aye. Karen Robertson,
Aye.
Corey Montijo,
No.
Patrick McCaffrey,
Aye.
Joe Como.
Aye.
All right, passes 7-2. All right, that concludes our session for tonight. Thank you. Good night, everyone.